Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take your pile of information and distill it into those essential nuggets of knowledge. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into something incredibly practical, yet profoundly impactful: human connection and communication.
Indeed. It's funny, we often think of communication as just, talking, but as we'll unpack today, it's actually this really sophisticated dance, subtle signals, conscious choices, and some surprising psychological insights, too. Our source today is an illuminating guide by the acclaimed communications expert Leil Lowndes. It's called How to Talk to Anyone, 92 Little Tricks for Big Success.
That's right, 92 tricks. It's a lot. So our mission today is to pull out the most actionable, the most eye-opening techniques from this really extensive guide. We're going to explore how to make powerful first impressions, how to master the art of conversation, build genuine rapport, navigate social situations with grace, and ultimately become someone who truly captivates and connects. Get ready for some aha moments that honestly might just change the way you interact with everyone around you. It's incredible how much communication happens before you even open our mouths. The book really drives that home right from the start. It reminds us that you often only have about 10 seconds, maybe less, to make an impression. And often you don't even need to say a word. It's like this powerful silent broadcast you're putting out.
hmm What's truly fascinating here is how much of our initial judgment of others, and well, their judgment of us too, is based purely on these nonverbal cues. Our brains process these subliminal signals long before rational thought even kicks in. It kind of lays the groundwork for the entire relationship. Think of it like a gut feeling, where your emotional reaction happens before your brain has consciously registered why you feel that way. This initial hit is absolutely crucial. It really sets the stage for everything that follows.
Okay, so if you've only got 10 seconds,
Yes.
maybe even less, and your body is doing all the talking, what's the first, the most impactful thing you can do to make a positive impression?
Well, it starts with something as seemingly simple as a smile. But there's a clever twist. The first technique Lowndes discusses is called the flooding smile. The core idea isn't to just flash an immediate generic smile, the kind anyone walking into your line of sight would get, like it doesn't matter who they are. Instead, you're advised to pause for just a split second, really soak in the other person's presence, really see them, and then let a warm, genuine smile slowly flood over your face and right into your eyes.
So it's not just that you smile, but how you smile, and maybe when you smile. The book gives this really memorable anecdote about Missy. She was this bubbly college friend, and when she took over her family business as CEO, she asked the author to call her Melissa. Her smile was still charming, yeah, but it was different somehow. It wasn't that Quicksilver, giggling smile from her past. This delayed, sort of personalized smile signaled her newfound presence and seriousness. It made people feel her smile was meant specifically for them, and therefore it felt deeply authentic.
Precisely. That deliberate delay creates this profound sense of exclusivity and intention. It signals that your attention is fully, genuinely on the recipient. It makes them feel truly seen, uniquely acknowledged. And this taps into our innate human desire for unique recognition. It triggers a much stronger, much more positive response than a generic pleasantry ever could. It's kind of the psychological equivalent of getting a bespoke gift versus, say, a mass-produced one. It just feels personally crafted for you.
That makes so much sense, yeah. It feels like a moment of actual connection. And speaking of nonverbal power, the book then moves, like a few inches north, to the eyes, with two incredibly powerful techniques: sticky eyes and epoxy eyes. These are all about striking everyone as intelligent and insightful, and sometimes even making someone feel captivated, maybe even fall in love, all with your eyes.
Yes, intense eye contact is, well, undeniably powerful. Lowndes shares this fascinating Boston study. They had opposite-sex individuals, strangers, basically tricked into maintaining intense eye contact. How? But asking them to count each other's blinks during a short 2-minute casual chat.
Counting blinks. Seriously.
Yeah. And afterwards, the unsuspecting blinkers reported significantly higher feelings of respect and fondness for their partners. It's incredible how a seemingly mundane task, just because it forces sustained eye contact, can induce such a profound effect.
That's truly captivating.
Wow.
The author also recounts a personal seminar experience, right, where one woman in the crowd maintained this unwavering eye contact throughout her entire talk, even during the silences. And this apparently inspired the author to deliver her best performance ever, remembering stories and making points she had long forgotten. It ended with her doing like an hour-long recap of the seminar just for that one woman. That's some serious magnetic power just from a gaze.
It truly is, and this powerful effect actually has a biological basis. When you look intently at someone, it literally increases their heart rate, and it releases an adrenaline-like substance through their veins, which is, interestingly, the same physical reaction people have when they first start to fall in love.
Wow.
So it makes people feel intensely captivated. The book then distinguishes between sticky eyes. That's more for professional settings. You maintain strong eye contact, gives the impression you're an intelligent, abstract thinker because you're not distracted, you're not looking away during silences. And then there's epoxy eyes, which is a more intense kind of super glued gaze.
Yeah, okay, so sticky eyes helps you project intelligence, engagement in a professional way, while epoxy eyes is more like emotional superglue. But how do you know when to use the heavy artillery, epoxy eyes, and when it might just cross a line? Feel creepy.
That's a crucial distinction, absolutely. For epoxy eyes, in a romantic context, if the attraction is mutual, yeah, that nervous physical reaction you induce can be interpreted as budding infatuation, making it a powerful aphrodisiac. However, and this is important, the book explicitly warns against using epoxy eyes on strangers in public, or if the attraction isn't already clearly present. In those cases, it can be perceived as downright obnoxious or intimidating, even threatening. And this also brings up a really important point about cultural sensitivity. In some cultures, direct, prolonged eye contact is actually seen as aggressive or disrespectful. So it highlights that adaptability and discernment are absolutely key when applying these techniques. It's never a one-size-fits-all approach,
That's a crucial caveat, the cultural differences.
Yeah.
It really highlights how these techniques aren't rigid rules, are they? They're tools that need to be applied with sensitivity, with awareness of the context. And beyond the eyes, your posture speaks volumes too, doesn't it? The book has a great visualization for this in Hang by Your Teeth, looking like a big winner wherever you go.
Right. Hang by your teeth.
Sure.
This technique emphasizes that your posture is arguably your biggest success barometer. It really signals how you feel about yourself. The core idea is to visualize yourself as a graceful acrobat, specifically thinking of the Lowndes, masters of the Iron Jaw act.
Yeah.
Imagine hanging by your teeth from a cable, suspended just above a doorway you're about to walk through. This mental image automatically pulls your head high, your shoulders back, and your entire body into perfect alignment.
The book shares how the author personally tested this. She counted how many times she passed through doorways, something like 60 times a day, which sounds like a lot.
It does.
But this consistent mental visualization, repeated so often throughout her day, made good posture an ingrained habit for her.
And the analysis here is truly compelling. It's not just about looking good. It's about embodying pride, success, joy. This mental and physical alignment radiates this profound sense of confidence. It signals to everyone around you that you are a somebody, someone who is habitually experiencing and feeling that pride and success. Our bodies are constantly broadcasting signals, right? And this technique ensures you're sending out powerful, positive ones.
It's like being your own personal broadcasting station. It really is. These initial techniques remind you that every subtle move, every smile, every choice of posture, it can either draw people in or subtly push them away. It's this continuous, silent conversation happening beneath the surface of conscious thought. So, okay, once you've made that stellar first impression without even speaking, what's next? How do you actually get the conversation rolling and, transform that initial positive vibe into a genuine connection? This is where many of us, myself included, sometimes can kind of stumble.
That's a really important question, especially for those who really dread small talk. Many bright individuals, people who are highly competent in their professional lives, they confess to feeling like little lost children at parties or casual social gatherings. They're completely comfortable with big talk in boardrooms, but feel utterly lost in informal settings. The good news, however, is that there are concrete techniques to navigate this very common anxiety.
Okay, so for those of us who feel a slight panic attack coming on at the thought of initiating small talk, what's the secret sauce? How do you break the ice authentically?
Well, one of the most effective strategies is called Hello, Old Friend. The core idea is surprisingly simple, yet incredibly effective. When meeting someone new, you mentally imagine they are a long-lost friend you are just overjoyed to be reunited with.
Really?
Yeah. The book offers the anecdote about Carla, a recently divorced copywriter who is struggling to connect at a party. The suggestion is that this mental shift, even though you might just say a simple hello, profoundly transforms your body language. Everything from a subconscious softening of your eyebrows to the positioning of your toes. This authentic delight makes the new person feel incredibly special, as if they truly are that long-lost friend you're so happy to see.
That's a fascinating mental trick. Wow. You're essentially manufacturing an emotion internally that then genuinely impacts your physical demeanor and your external interaction. It fills your face with delight, subtly buoys up your body language, makes the new person feel genuinely important, uniquely regarded.
And on the subject of small talk anxiety, Lowndes offers a very comforting perspective. She explains that the fear of small talk and stage fright are essentially the same psychological phenomenon.
Interesting.
It's a normal, widespread anxiety, and even famous performers like the legendary cellist Pablo Casals or singer Carly Simon, even Neil Diamond, who apparently needed teleprompters for songs he'd sung for decades due to stage fright, they've all suffered from it.
No way. Neil Diamond.
Yeah. So the current cure isn't found in pharmaceuticals, though scientists are experimenting apparently. Instead, it's knowing solid techniques. When you genuinely feel confident because you have specific, proven techniques to fall back on, your brain produces its own natural antidotes to fear. It's a powerful testament to how preparedness can dramatically reduce anxiety and just transform your experience.
That's incredibly reassuring, honestly. Knowing there's a practical antidote to that social anxiety is a huge relief. So, armed with these confidence-boosting techniques, how do we actually start the conversation without sounding, well, awkward or forced?
That's precisely what a technique called How to Start Great Small Talk addresses. The core idea is pretty foundational. You first match your listener's tone and energy level, and then you offer information in an accessible way. The most soothing and effective first words are often surprisingly unoriginal or even banal.
Banal.
Banal. Yeah. The book illustrates this with a great elevator example. The author comments on a flaky elevator, and these highly intelligent people, mensons, they immediately pounce with intense technical explanations.
Right.
The key, Lowndes points out, is to first match the initial lethargic mood by simply agreeing with a statement like, yes, it is slow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before then offering information such as, have you ever been curious why?
That really clarifies it. It's about mirroring their initial energy and just meeting them exactly where they are. Senator Hayakawa, the brilliant scholar, used this principle to great effect, apparently. By engaging in common and unoriginal, even banal small talk, commenting on the war, stating universally agreeable opinions. This disarming approach led to a skeptical couple inviting him to dinner, despite initially suspecting him of being a sky.
I know.
It's astonishing how simple agreement can pave the way for deeper connection.
It truly demonstrates the profound power of mirroring and meeting people where they are, rather than immediately trying to impress with your intellect or wit. Simple, agreeable statements pave the way for deeper connection and just make people feel comfortable enough to invite you further into their lives and thoughts.
Okay, so once you've set the stage with that initial pleasantry, how do you find that perfect opening line? Especially when you don't know anything about the person you want to talk to. It feels like you're walking into a conversational void sometimes.
That's where who's that comes in. It's a highly effective, yet surprisingly underused method for meeting new people. Especially, the book says, by those who aren't career politicians.
Okay.
The core idea is wonderfully direct. You ask the party giver, or maybe a mutual acquaintance, for an introduction. Or even better, for a few key facts about an interesting stranger you'd like to talk to, which you can then use as an icebreaker.
Like getting a cheat sheet for connection.
Exactly.
So you ask, who's Hesha? And then you get a nugget like, oh, that's Joe Smith. He loves to ski. And then you can just walk up to Joe, armed with that specific tidbit, and say, hi, you're Joe Smith, aren't you? Susan was just telling me what a great skier you are. Where do you usually ski?
Oh, that's brilliant because it removes all the awkward guesswork.
Yeah.
Exactly. This technique cleverly leverages existing social connections and provides you with ready-made, specific icebreakers. It completely sidesteps those awkward general openings that can make anyone cringe. It eliminates the need to come up with clever, witty lines on the spot and gives you a direct, relevant point of entry into a conversation. Plus, it makes the other person feel recognized right from the get-go.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? It means a little bit of strategic thinking, some well-placed mental adjustments. They can transform those anxiety-inducing moments into genuine opportunities for connection. It's not about being someone you're not, right? But about being thoroughly prepared to be your best, most engaging self.
Precisely. It's about understanding the subtle dynamics of first contact and having the practical tools to navigate them confidently. Turning potential discomfort into genuine rapport, it really empowers you to engage and start those conversations you might otherwise shy away from.
Okay, so once you've broken the ice and initiated that first contact, the next major challenge is, well, keeping the conversation from fizzling out.
Ah, yes, the dreaded fizzle. Exactly. This section dives into how to remain interesting, insightful, and always have something engaging to say, ensuring that spark you've created continues to burn brightly.
I think we've all been there, right? Where the conversation just hits a wall and you desperately search for a new topic. What's the book's first piece of advice for avoiding that awkward silence?
It's captured in a very clever phrase, never the naked city or Job.
Okay.
The core idea is to completely avoid giving those one-word answers when asked about your hometown or your job. Instead, you need to flesh it out with interesting facts or benefit statements that actively invite further conversation. For instance, if someone asks where you're from and you say Washington, D.C., you could expand on that by adding designed, by the same city planner who designed Paris.
Oh, interesting.
Right. This immediately opens up possibilities for discussion about city planning, European travel, maybe even architecture.
Or for Columbus, Ohio, the book suggests having a list of other cities named Columbus ready, which could expand the conversation to like 15 other states.
Yeah.
It really transforms a dry fact into a hook, doesn't it? Like giving the other person a little conversational snack. And for jobs, instead of just saying, I'm an actuary, you could say, I help people understand the financial risks of the future, which sounds much more intriguing.
Much more.
Or for a hairdresser, I help a woman find the right hairstyle for her particular face. That immediately conveys the value and the art of the profession.
Yes, that's exactly it. This is about articulating the inherent benefit or the most interesting aspect of what you do, rather than just stating a label. It makes your profession or origin memorable and engaging, gives the other person something tangible to latch onto and ask more questions about, ensuring the conversation flows naturally. It's like offering a conversational on-ramp, really.
That's incredibly insightful. It's about giving the other person something to munch on, as the book puts it, so they don't just wander off to the cheese tray. Okay, what about when you're on the receiving end and you want to keep someone else talking without having to constantly come up with new material yourself?
Ah, that's where a technique called parroting comes in. The core idea is deceptively simple. You repeat the last one, two, or maybe three words of the other person's sentence, followed by a slightly quizzical intonation. The author gives a vivid example of a car ride with Phil, who was recounting the convoluted plot of Sweeney Todd. The author kept him talking by simply repeating phrases like theater, great show, and bizarre story. Each time Phil paused.
And it sounds like it worked. Phil just kept elaborating, seemingly delighted.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a way to show you're listening intently without interrupting their flow. Is that it?
Exactly. This makes the other person feel incredibly heard and genuinely encouraged to elaborate further. It effectively keeps the conversational ball in their court without you having to constantly come up with a new material or try to steer the conversation. It's a subtle yet remarkably powerful active listening tool that draws people out and makes them feel truly understood.
That's a great tactic for keeping someone engaged. Now, what if you're in a group setting and you want to make someone else shine? Maybe someone important to you? Or maybe even subtly excuse yourself from the conversation without being rude.
That brings us to encore. This technique suggests that when you're talking in a group, you request a repeat performance of a story someone important to you has already told you.
Oh, interesting.
The book describes the author doing this on a cruise ship, asking officers to retell stories of heroism, like, tell these folks how you awakened the captain at midnight last week for the dramatic midnight rescue. Apparently, they happily obliged, and the stories even got longer and more elaborate each time as they relished the renewed attention.
That's genius. It not only shines a spotlight on the storyteller, making them feel appreciated and important, because, as the book says, only crowd pleasers are asked to do an encore.
Right.
But it also provides ready-made entertainment for the group and subtly allows you to potentially slip away if you need to once the story is launched. It's a genuine win-win.
It truly is. And to ensure you always have something interesting to say yourself, Lowndes provides a surprising source for a powerful technique. Basically, be prepared with conversational fodder by staying informed.
And the surprising source of this technique is Sydney Biddlebarrow's The Mayflower Madam.
That's the one.
She famously insisted her employees listen to the news before appointments so they would always have conversation topics.
Yeah.
Her business apparently increased significantly, with clients complimenting her on the fascinating women working for her. It makes you realize how valuable general knowledge can be.
It really highlights the unexpected value of general knowledge and current events as universal icebreakers. This kind of preparation makes you appear more well-rounded and engaging, demonstrates a broader interest in the world around you, which almost always resonates well with others. It's about being well-read, not just well-versed in your little niche.
Okay, what about the way we phrase things? The book talks about cultivating Jaw Smith's jive and, crucially, avoiding cliches.
Yes, use Joss Smith Jive advises cultivating a vocabulary of clever, quotable phrases, pearls of wisdom, and bon mots, those witty, memorable remarks that slide gracefully off your tongue. It's not about using big words just to sound smart,
Yeah.
but using the right words for the situation to demonstrate wit and originality. For example, an executive might break tension in a financial meeting with a well-timed joke like, "Don't worry, this company has enough money to stay in business for years unless we pay our creditors." Or a veterinarian making national headlines by cleverly calling a procedure to attach feet to a frostbitten rooster a drumstick transplant.
So it's about being witty and memorable, but also relevant. That's key.
Yeah.
The author mentions how reading English love poems was a big hit on an England cruise because it fit the context, but a total bomb on a Caribbean cruise because it just wasn't relevant to the audience or the setting.
Exactly. It profoundly emphasizes the importance of originality and relevance in your language. It's about demonstrating wit and memorability through your choice of words. And as a crucial counterpoint, Lowndes also highlights the importance of don't touch a cliche with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
This warns against using common cliches, especially when talking to big winners or important people, as it makes you sound uncommonly common, or, as the book puts it, maybe dumb as a doorknob. Cliches signal a lack of original thought and effort, which can be really off-putting to discerning listeners.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. It's not just about being the smartest person in the room, is it? It's about being the most thoughtful and adaptable in your approach to conversation, making deliberate choices to enhance engagement.
Precisely. It's about building a conversational repertoire that is both broad and tailored, allowing you to connect on multiple levels, ensuring you always have something engaging and original to contribute. It sort of transforms casual interaction into a form of art, where every word and phrase is like a brushstroke. Okay, so once you've mastered the art of initial interaction and engaging talk, the next crucial layer is about fostering deeper connections, and also gracefully handling potentially tricky social situations. This moves us beyond the surface pleasantries to truly meaningful and, well, resilient engagement.
This sounds like where the rubber meets the road in building genuine, lasting relationships. What's a common pitfall we should watch out for when we find something in common with someone? It feels so natural to just blurt out, "Me too."
It is natural, yeah,
Okay.
but that's exactly what Kill the Quick Me Too addresses. The core idea is to resist the urge to immediately blurt out "Me too" when you discover a similarity. The longer you wait to reveal that commonality, the more impressed and moved the other person will be. It makes the connection feel more profound.
Really? How so?
Well, the author recounts an acquaintance who waited until the end of her detailed monologue about skiing to reveal he had an apartment in Aspen, rather than immediately saying, "Oh, I ski too." The impact was apparently far greater.
And the author herself used this technique brilliantly, didn't she? When a new contact was telling her all about a trip to Washington, D.C., which was the author's hometown, she listened intently without revealing her connection until the woman remarked, "You sound like you know a lot about Washington."
Right?
The delayed reveal made the woman feel she hadn't been boring her and that the author's interest was entirely genuine, not just waiting for an opening to share her own experience.
That's the key. This technique positions you as a confident, engaged listener rather than someone desperate for a quick, superficial connection. It allows the other person to feel fully heard and appreciated before you share your own relevant experience, making the shared interest feel much more profound and exclusive. The caveat, though, as you hinted, is not to wait too long. Or it can start to seem manipulative. It's a delicate balance.
Right, timing is everything. So it's truly about making it about them and letting them lead. And speaking of making it about them, the book introduces a powerful, almost magical three-letter word, you, or what Lowndes calls communication.
Exactly. Communication. I like that. The core idea is to translate everything you say into the other person's terms by starting as many sentences as possible with you. This effectively does the thinking for them, appealing to that fundamental human pleasure-pain principle, where people instinctively gravitate towards what's pleasurable and away from what's painful or requires effort. So instead of a self-centric, I'd like to invite you to this restaurant, you shift the focus to, Jill, you will really love this new Indian restaurant. Will you join me there this evening for dinner?
That makes the suggestion much more appealing, doesn't it? And easier to accept because it focuses entirely on their benefit and perspective. Okay, what about things to avoid doing, especially with friends, even if you think you're just being playful?
Ah, yes. Lowndes emphasizes a crucial point in how to avoid the world's worst conversational habit, which is teasing. Specifically, avoid teasing or making quips at someone else's expense, especially with friends. She warns that it signals little cathood, meaning insecurity, and creates a black mark on your social standing. Think of examples like patting someone's paunch and saying, "Enjoying that cheesecake, huh?" Or making jokes about balding heads. These might seem innocent, but they often land badly.
That's a powerful point. So true big winners don't build themselves up by tearing others down, even playfully. It's truly about respect and fostering uniformly positive social dynamics.
Okay, what about delivering bad news? That's always tricky.
Lowndes addresses that with how to give them the bad news and have them like you all the more.
The core idea is to deliver bad news with genuine compassion and a deeply sympathetic attitude, really sharing the sentiment of the receiver. The analysis emphasizes that it's rarely the news itself that makes someone angry, but rather the unsympathetic or cold way it's delivered. She cites examples of doctors advising patients, bosses informing employees about not getting a job, or grief counselors. Empathy, truly smearing on the emo, as she vividly puts it, is an absolute core component of navigating difficult conversations effectively.
That's a powerful reminder that connection comes before content in those sensitive moments.
Yeah. And what if you're stuck in an unwelcome conversation or being questioned persistently on a subject you really don't want to discuss?
That's where the broken record comes in handy. This technique advises that when persistently questioned on an unwelcome subject, you calmly repeat your original response using precisely the same words and tone of voice, over and over.
Like a broken record.
Exactly. The book provides the vivid example of Barbara, who, while separating from her husband and business partner, was repeatedly probed by a rude interrogator. She calmly, consistently responded, "We've separated, but the company is unaffected." Eventually, it just shut them up without her losing her composure. That's an incredibly effective and dignified way to set boundaries and curtail intrusive questions without becoming agitated or defensive. It almost sounds too simple to work, but I guess the power is in the unwavering consistency. What about interacting with celebrities or very important people? There's a fine line there, isn't there, between admiration and being perceived as a, well, slobbering fan.
Lowndes offers crucial guidance in Big Shots Don't Slobber. Her advice is that VIPs in their own right don't gush over celebrities. Instead, you should let them enjoy a moment of anonymity if possible. If you do interact, simply state the pleasure or insight their work has given you, and importantly, mention a recent accomplishment, not something yellowed in a scrapbook from 20 years ago.
Ah, good tip.
And always involve their companions in the conversation. Don't ignore them.
This truly signals your own confidence, doesn't it? And respect for their personhood, rather than just treating them as an object of adulation or a public persona. It treats them as a fellow human being. Okay, what about expressing gratitude? You mentioned earlier how a simple thanks isn't always enough.
You're right. Lowndes calls it the naked thank you and advises against it in How to Make Them Want to Thank You. Don't just say thanks. Instead, elaborate your gratitude even slightly to encourage more positive interactions. The author gives a great example of saying, "Thanks for getting us here," to airplane captains or first officers, which apparently often elicits an enthusiastic, "Oh, thanks for flying with us," in return. It turns a transactional moment into a warm interaction.
That small elaboration of gratitude has a surprising ripple effect,
Yeah.
turning a routine exchange into a mini connection that reinforces positive behavior and encourages more of it in the future.
Absolutely. This shows that every seemingly minor interaction holds potential for deeper connection and reciprocity, building a foundation of goodwill.
So it's about being thoughtful and intentional in every interaction, really making it about them as much as possible. It seems like the book really advocates for a profoundly you-centric approach to communication.
Exactly. These techniques are about cultivating a deep awareness of subtle human dynamics and leveraging them for stronger, more authentic connections. They highlight that true influential connection comes from making the other person feel uniquely valued, understood, and genuinely appreciated.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. How do we become someone who can connect with anyone, anywhere, regardless of their background or interests? It sounds like we need to become a conversational chameleon.
You've hit on the core principle right there, adaptability and cultivating insider knowledge. It's about being a conversational chameleon without being inauthentic, of course. It's not about pretending to be an expert in everything, but rather gaining enough familiarity with diverse subjects to engage intelligently and respectfully with almost anyone.
So how does one acquire this insider knowledge quickly? Especially when there's just so much to know in the world. Seems daunting.
Well, Lands offers a fantastic shortcut called scramble therapy.
Scramble therapy. Okay.
She suggests that once a month you do something completely outside your normal routine. Attend a sport you've never watched, visit an art exhibition, go to a lecture on an unfamiliar topic, that sort of thing. The key insight is that just one exposure, even a brief one, can give you roughly 80% of the relevant lingo and insider questions.
80%. Yeah.
Yeah. The author shares her personal story of being shy around boys who talked about cars. Reading just one introductory book on current car models made her fluent in Fords, Chevys, and Buicks, allowing her to participate in conversations and connect with them. It's like dipping litmus paper into a vat versus just a single drop of acid. A small sample often gives you significant conversational value and the ability to ask intelligent follow-up questions.
That's a genius shortcut to conversational breadth. You don't need to become an expert, just knowledgeable enough to ask intelligent questions and show genuine interest. It's about being curious, not being a walking encyclopedia.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you sound like an insider, someone who is genuinely interested in their world. And building on that, Lowndes' technique of read their rags suggests that to sound like an even deeper insider with people in a specific field or hobby, you should actually read their special interest magazines, or rags as she calls them.
Like Penny, the office furniture salesperson you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
She uses different terms depending on her client's industry, right? Calling it an advertising agency, a publishing house, a firm for lawyers, or a station for radio clients. She avoids just saying office because she knows her clients would assume she knew nothing about their industry otherwise. And it's how you learn terms like swine practitioners for pig farmers. It's all about speaking their language.
That's a perfect illustration. This profoundly emphasizes the importance of adopting the specific lexicon and jargon of your audience. It shows respect and understanding of their world, which immediately builds significant rapport and makes them feel you get them. It's about demonstrating cultural intelligence, whether it's within a specific profession or on a broader international scale.
And speaking of international, the book strongly stresses the importance of understanding global customs, not just language, when traveling or doing business abroad.
Absolutely. Beyond packing a passport and maybe a phrase book, Lenz argues you must pack a book on international customs to avoid potentially catastrophic cultural gaffes. The tragic tale of Jerry's business trip to Japan illustrates this vividly.
Oh yeah, that was rough.
She made 7 major blunders that completely derailed her efforts. She gave a blank business card where names and titles should be on both sides in Japan, wrote on it during the meeting, opened a gift in front of clients without having one for them, and then, as a final flourish, gave a thank you hug. Which is just unacceptable in Japanese business culture. Each misstep just chipped away at her credibility.
Wow, that could really hurt a business deal and your reputation. It's astonishing how seemingly small social errors can have such huge consequences.
Indeed. It highlights how deeply cultural nuances in nonverbal communication and social etiquette can impact business relationships and first impressions, potentially hurting you right in your pocket or purse, as the book says. It fundamentally shows that being a global insider requires much more than just language skills. It demands deep cultural awareness.
And this insider knowledge isn't just for social graces or international diplomacy. It can literally save you money, right? The insider price technique.
Yes, exactly. Learning the lingo of a business can strategically help you get a better deal. It signals to vendors that you know the score and won't be easily taken advantage of. For example, when hiring a painter, simply knowing terms like prepping, that's surface preparation, and cutting and painting 2 colors next to each other, and mentioning holidays, which are unpainted spots, can lead them to lower their price significantly. Yeah, they realize you understand their process and won't be easily exploited. Similarly, learning diamond lingo like stones, table, girdle, and inclusions from competitors before buying a diamond helps you get a finer deal because you speak their language.
That's amazing how specific knowledge of jargon can empower you in negotiations. conveying competence and preventing you from being exploited as an outsider. It levels the playing field instantly.
It's all about perception and signaling competence. Another powerful technique for building rapport is echoing. This means mirroring the precise words and terms that people use, especially when they have an emotional attachment or specific meaning to them. The book gives the example of Phil calling a woman's beloved chalet a mere cabin, which genuinely insulted her because chalet had specific cherished connotations for her.
Ouch.
Right. Similarly, Penny, the furniture salesperson we discussed, using terms like advertising agency or publishing house instead of just office to match her client's industry-specific language. Even asking the pharmacist about a drugstore might be considered imprecise by them, depending on the person.
So echoing builds a deeper sense of understanding and empathy, makes the other person feel truly heard and that you get their world, their unique perspective. It's like politically correct insurance, as the book says, ensuring you avoid unintended slights.
Exactly. It shows you're paying meticulous attention to their nuanced language and makes them feel completely understood, which is incredibly validating. Then there's on-target analogies. This is about using analogies that resonate deeply with the listener's life and experiences to clarify your points. The author shares her frustration with men constantly using football analogies, Hail Mary pass, that she simply didn't understand, and humorously fantasizes about women using childbirth analogies. New proposal till the third trimester.
Huh. That's great. That really drives home the point that analogies are only effective if the imagery is truly relevant to the listener's frame of reference. Otherwise, they alienate rather than clarify. It's about bridging the gap, not widening it.
Absolutely. It profoundly emphasizes tailoring your communication style and examples to your specific audience to ensure clarity and avoid alienating them. And finally, building on this sensory mirroring, anatomically correct empathizers advises matching your empathizers, like I see, I hear, I feel, to the specific sensory language your conversation partner is using at that moment.
Okay, so if someone says, we can see our way clear, you respond with, I see what you mean. If they say, this plan has a good ring to it, you say, it does sound great. And if they say, I have a gut feeling, you respond with, I can understand how you feel. That's subtle but incredibly powerful way to connect on a subconscious level. Wow.
Yes, this subtle mirroring of sensory language creates deeper rapport and makes the other person feel understood on a profound, almost primal level. And building on that sense of shared experience, Lowndes introduces the premature WE, which encourages creating instant intimacy by prematurely using we, us, and our in casual conversation, effectively skipping superficial conversational levels. It apparently scrambles psychological signals, making clients, prospects, or potential romantic partners feel as though you are already a unit, fostering a sense of shared experience and common ground before it's explicitly established.
This goes way beyond just being polite, doesn't it? It's about showing genuine respect for someone's background and interests by speaking their language, literally and figuratively. It's about being incredibly perceptive and adaptable to their world.
It truly highlights that knowledge, when applied thoughtfully in communication, becomes an incredibly powerful tool for connection and influence. It's about proactively adapting your style to bridge any gaps and build powerful bridges between people. Okay, now let's turn our attention to the art of praise. Praise, when done right, has this extraordinary power to capture hearts and build loyalty. But as Lowndes points out, the folly of flattery can quickly backfire if it's insincere or unskilled. People today are, well, far more cynical and wary of fawning. So what's the secret to complimenting someone without sounding like you're brown-nosing? Or worse, just try and get something from them. It seems like there's a delicate balance between genuine appreciation and perceived manipulation.
There absolutely is. The book introduces the malaise of unskilled praise, explaining that if your compliment feels insincere or clumsy, it can instantly destroy trust and abort potential relationships. People are inherently cynical, recognizing self-serving motives almost immediately. Lowndes gives vivid examples like salespeople saying, the suit looks great on you, while subtly caressing cash register keys.
Right.
Or suitors saying, you are beautiful, with the bedroom door prominently in view. This highlights the inherent danger of direct, out-of-the-blue praise if the recipient perceives even a hint of ulterior motives.
So how do you get around that suspicion? How do you make praise truly land as genuine?
Lowndes offers a brilliant solution with grapevine glory. The core idea is to praise someone behind their back to a third party.
The compliment is far more impactful and believable when it's overheard or relayed by another because it carries no direct self-interest from the giver. As the philosopher Thomas Fuller wrote way back in 1732, he's my friend that speaks well of me behind my back. The anecdote about Jane and Diane perfectly illustrates this, telling Diane something genuinely great about Jane, who then later relays it to Jane.
That's absolutely genius. It completely bypasses any suspicion of ulterior motives,
Mhm.
makes the praise seem authentic, and leaves the recipient with the delightful fantasy that you are telling the whole world about their greatness. It's like a secret handshake of genuine admiration.
Indeed. Another incredibly clever approach is accidental adulation. The core idea here is to slip praise into a secondary, almost parenthetical part of your statement, making it feel less like a direct compliment and more like an unconscious acknowledgement.
Okay, how does that work?
For example, telling your 65-year-old uncle, anyone as fit as you would have zipped right up those steps, but boy, was I out of breath. It implies a compliment about his fitness without directly stating it. Or, to a colleague, because you're so knowledgeable in contract law, you would have read between the lines, but stupidly I signed it. It subtly praises their legal acumen.
The compliment is so subtle, isn't it?
Ugh.
It seems to slip out naturally, making it incredibly well received without feeling like direct flattery. But the book warns that the joyful jolt of the compliment might make them temporarily deaf to your main point.
A small, often humorous price to pay for such effective praise. Then there's killer compliment. This is described as a highly potent, unforgettable compliment. But it must be delivered privately to avoid making others feel uncomfortable or inadequate.
Why privately?
Because it's about recognizing a profound, deeply personal quality in someone that they themselves cherish. It can make others feel inadequate if they hear it. This makes it a precision tool for building deep personal rapport, but it absolutely requires careful execution and discernment.
So a powerful tool that requires a lot of emotional intelligence. Got it. What about just everyday affirmations, those small strokes that keep relationships humming along?
For that, we have little strokes. The core idea is simply to give small, consistent verbal affirmations to show appreciation for colleagues, friends, loved ones. Think of simple phrases like, nice job, well done, cool, The underlying thought, Lowndes suggests, is that people silently, subconsciously wonder, haven't I been pretty good today?
So these itty-bitty boosters are like consistent, gentle caresses, constantly reinforcing positive feelings, showing you notice and value their efforts, making them feel genuinely appreciated. Little things mean a lot truly applies here.
Exactly. They build a constant reservoir of goodwill. And when you are the one receiving a compliment, Lowndes' boomeranging technique advises letting the good feelings boomerang back to the giver. By gracefully acknowledging their kindness rather than dismissing it, don't just say thanks or worse, oh, it's nothing.
Right.
The French phrase, vous êtes gentil, how kind of you, beautifully captures the sentiment. Examples include, that's very kind of you to say, or you're always so observant.
This shows humility and acknowledges the giver's positive intention, fosters a cycle of positive affirmation, and allows the giver to feel good about their compliment too. It's like a positive feedback loop. And finally, for those truly deep connections, the book introduces the tombstone game. This sounds intriguing.
It is a powerful one, yeah. The core idea is to compliment loved ones or close associates on the quality they are most deeply proud of, the quality they would want etched on their tombstone.
How do you find that out?
Well, you set it up by mentioning reading about tombstones and people's desired inscriptions, then ask them what quality they would want to be remembered for. The book gives examples like Billy Buck's, whose thing is humor, or Jane, whose source of pride is spreading joy.
So the compliment must be profoundly tailored to the individual's deepest self-image. It's not interchangeable. You wouldn't tell Billy Bucks he's a man of his word if humor is his core self-image. It has to resonate at that core level.
Precisely. This hits the deepest level of self-perception, making the compliment incredibly powerful. It makes the recipient feel truly seen and understood, thinking, at last, someone who loves me for who I truly am. It's a rare and powerful gift because it affirms their very essence.
This section really transforms the idea of praise, doesn't it? From a superficial act into a profound tool for strengthening relationships. It's about truly seeing, valuing, and affirming the unique essence of others.
Absolutely. It moves us beyond generic pleasantries to truly recognizing and affirming the unique essence of another person, which, as Lowndes argues, is a rare and powerful gift and a cornerstone of deep, lasting connection.
Okay, in a world that's increasingly connected but sometimes feels less personal, how do these communication tricks translate to things like phone calls and social gatherings? It's one thing to apply them face-to-face, but what about when you can't see someone's body language?
That's a great question, and it's a very common modern challenge. The principles of connection remain the same, yeah, but the execution absolutely adapts to the medium. Our goal is to make every interaction, even on the phone, feel personal and impactful. For phone calls, since body language and facial expressions are completely lost, you must consciously translate your emotions into sound, and even exaggerate the sound a bit to convey personality and energy.
The book shares the anecdote about Ronnie, right, whose crisp, curt phone voice made her seem snippy.
Mm-hmm.
But in person, her warm smile and body language revealed her true congenial nature. Studies even show people lose about 30% of their vocal energy on the phone, so that exaggeration makes sense.
Exactly. This highlights the crucial need for conscious vocal modulation to project warmth, enthusiasm, and personality when visual cues are absent. Building on that, Lowndes' name shower technique advises using the caller's name more frequently on the phone than you would in person.
More frequently,
Yeah. This helps to keep their attention, essentially recreating the effect of eye contact or a gentle caress across the distance. Because of that physical distance, repeated name usage on the phone is acceptable, even desirable, to maintain a strong connection and personalize the call.
what about screening calls politely? It's such a common office dilemma, how to be efficient without being rude.
Lowndes' The Sneaky Screen offers a clever solution. You instruct your staff to cheerfully say, "Oh yes, I'll put you right through. May I tell her who's calling?" Or, "Oh, of course, Mr. Who's It, I'll put you right through." The key is the enthusiastic tone, implying connection.
Oh.
If the person is unavailable, the caller won't feel screened or dismissed, but rather that you're genuinely trying to connect them. This technique provides a smooth, non-personal way to deflect calls, making callers feel less dismissed and more valued.
That's a great way to maintain goodwill. Yeah. And what about getting through to big shots on the phone, especially past a gatekeeper? That can be tough.
Getting what you want on the phone from big shots emphasizes courtesy above all else. When calling someone important, especially if you're trying to get past a gatekeeper, start with a polite greeting and a genuine apology for the disturbance. The book gives a vivid example of a fundraiser, Mr. Creighton, who consistently annoyed Mrs. Big Cat, the VIP's wife, by never greeting her or apologizing for disturbing her.
Oh, dear.
His brusque approach ultimately cost him a potential contribution. Courtesy and acknowledging the gatekeeper's role are absolutely crucial. Politeness can open doors where a brusque, demanding approach will inevitably fail.
What about our own outgoing voicemail messages? They can create a strong impression, too, sometimes without us even realizing it.
Absolutely. Impressing everyone with your outgoing voicemail message suggests keeping your voicemail friendly, neutral, up-to-date, and critically short.
Keep it short. Got it.
Lowndes advises changing it daily to give the impression you are on top of your business and highly organized. The book references Dan, a public speaker whose overly long thought for the day message was apparently annoying callers.
Yeah, I can see that.
Instead, a message like, "This is Name, it's Thursday, May 7, and I'll be in a sales meeting until late this afternoon. Please leave your message and I'll get back to you as soon as I return." That conveys efficiency, professionalism, and manages caller expectations effectively.
That's a simple change that projects a huge amount of professionalism and care. And if you're trying to bypass a secretary to reach a VIP, there's a clever ho-hum caper you can pull off. This sounds a little sneaky.
Yeah, it's certainly a strategic move. The ho-hum caper technique involves casually using the pronoun he or she instead of the person's name when speaking to their secretary.
Like, is she in?
Exactly. "Hi, Bob Smith here. Is she in?" Ho. The underlying psychology here is that this signals to the secretary that you and their boss are old buddies, implying a level of familiarity that can help you get past screening without explicitly lying. It's a subtle verbal sprint past the gatekeepers, relying on their assumption of your intimacy with their boss.
Now, let's talk about working a party. Like a politician works a room. There's a whole series of techniques here that sound like decoding the social matrix.
Indeed. It begins even before you arrive, with munching or mingling. Lowndes advises eating before the party so you can focus entirely on networking and conversations, not on juggling food and drinks.
Smart.
Then, astute attendees understand the host's real agenda for the party, whether it's job networking for their daughter, celebrating an achievement, or good PR for their business. By subtly supporting that agenda, you make yourself a valued guest. After meeting contacts, contact cement refers to the crucial follow-up strategy, laying out business cards like solitaire and meticulously strategizing specific follow-ups, like a prompt phone call or a personalized handwritten note based on your business card dossier.
So it's about being incredibly strategic and intentional about networking, not just casually hoping connections happen. And when you first arrive at a party, there's a specific, almost theatrical way to enter, right?
Exactly. Lowndes' rubberneck the room technique advises stopping dramatically in the doorway upon arrival and slowly surveying the entire room.
Really, dramatically.
Well, maybe not melodramatically, but deliberately. This isn't just for show. It's a deliberate act of scanning for people you want to meet, those who could be beneficial, inspiring, or simply enjoyable to converse with. This is about taking control of your interactions rather than just being chosen or falling into random conversations. The book also reminds us not to just gravitate to the beautiful people or the obvious power circles. Intently observing others, like the author did with her homely little fellow friend Chip, can reveal subjective beauty and lead to surprisingly deep and meaningful friendships. It's about looking beyond the superficial.
That's a lovely reminder to look beyond superficial appearances.
Yeah.
And what about using your body to subliminally lure people to you? Come hither, hands.
Come in the hands advises arranging your body, especially arms and hands, in an open, welcoming position. Palms up, wrists visible to subconsciously attract people. You should avoid postures like knuckles in the get lost or I'll punch your position, as she puts it. Open palms, she explains, signify having nothing to hide, acceptance, and even a subtle invitation to approach. It's an ancient primal signal of safety.
It's all about those nonverbal signals, isn't it? And then there's tracking, remembering minute details about important contacts. This sounds like something politicians are masters of.
They absolutely are. Tracking involves remembering minute, seemingly insignificant details about important contacts' lives, like their breakfast order, a comment about uncomfortable shoes, or even their flossing habits.
Flossing habits. Seriously.
Really, alluding to these details later makes them feel like memorable stars in your galaxy of acquaintances. Politicians use this extensively because it hints that they are deeply memorable and significant in your mind. It fosters a powerful sense of personal connection and flattery.
And finally, a technique that sounds like it could be a superpower. Eyeball selling. This is about truly reading nonverbal cues.
Yes, eyeball selling is precisely that. Reading your conversation partner's nonverbal cues, fidgets, head movements, hand gestures, subtle eye fluctuations to gauge their receptiveness and adjust your pitch and pace accordingly. Looking for signs of agreement, head bobbing, disagreement, head shaking, or engagement reaching for an object helps you know exactly when to talk faster, slower, or cut to the close of your point. You're constantly broadcasting, right? But a master communicator should also be constantly receiving and adapting.
It's clear that successful communication in any setting, whether virtual or in person, is about being present, highly attentive, and strategically observant. Every gesture, every glance, every choice of word, it all matters.
What's truly fascinating here is how these seemingly small, specific actions accumulate to create a powerful overall impression and significantly enhance your ability to connect with others. They are the fundamental building blocks for influential and truly impactful communication. Okay, finally, let's explore how to handle difficult moments and build relationships based on a mutual understanding of give and take, often without explicitly stating it. These techniques delve into the subtle nuances of social grace, influence, and long-term rapport.
This sounds like a masterclass in diplomacy and empathy. What's the first tip for navigating those awkward moments when someone makes a mistake in front of you, like spilling coffee?
It's Lowndes' technique of winning their affection by overlooking their bloopers. The core idea is to be completely blind to minor social gaffes, physical mishaps, or discomforts your companion might experience. Resist the urge to comment or offer well-meaning but attention-drawing remarks. The book gives a vivid example of an executive spilling a baked potato and a director knocking over her coffee cup during a high-stakes meeting. And no one at the table reacted or commented, allowing the person to recover gracefully.
So it's about letting them suffer in your silence, as the book puts it, allowing them to recover gracefully and maintain their dignity without making them feel more self-conscious. That's incredibly thoughtful and respectful. Yeah.
It is. Then Lowndes' How to Win Their Heart When Their Tongue is Faltering encourages profound patience and encouragement when someone is struggling to express themselves. You should calmly allow them the time and space to articulate their thoughts without interruption or pressure, even if they're fumbling for words. This fosters a deep sense of psychological safety, demonstrating empathy and allowing the other person to feel comfortable and supported, even when they're not at their best or most articulate.
And what about when you're asking for a favor or suggesting a meeting? The book talks about the buried white theme and Wi-Fi. That acronym sounds like it's about transparency.
Exactly. WIFM and Wi-Fi. Bear the buried WIFM and Wi-Fi suggests that when proposing a meeting or asking for a favor, you should explicitly state what's in it for you. Why the one's in it for me? And crucially, what's in it for them? YFI, what's in it for you, even if it's minimal. The author recounts inviting Sam, a busy marketing association head, to lunch for an hour of his valuable time, jokingly saying his benefit was a tasty lunch and the dubious pleasure of my company, and then letting him choose the restaurant.
That transparency sounds like it builds immediate trust, prevents any hidden agendas from surfacing later, effectively avoiding being labeled a sly fox. It's about directness and honesty in negotiation and asking.
Absolutely. It respects the other person's time and autonomy. And when it comes to making people want to do favors for you, Lowndes suggests that when asking for a favor, you should genuinely let the other person know how much it means to you. Don't deny them the pleasure of helping. The true reward for many people, the book argues, is the intrinsic joy of being helpful and feeling needed. By acknowledging your need and their potential positive impact, you actually encourage their generosity rather than diminishing it.
That's a subtle but powerful insight into human nature, tapping into that desire to be a good person.
Yeah. And if someone has already done you a favor and you feel they owe you one, what then? Do you immediately cash in that favor?
Lowndes advises against that. How to ask for favors and get them? Suggests waiting a few weeks before asking for a return favor.
Wait a few weeks. Why?
This delay prevents the interaction from feeling like tit for tat or a transactional exchange, thereby preserving the pleasant myth that the initial favor was done purely out of generosity and friendship, not as part of some ledger.
So it's about preserving the goodwill and the illusion of pure altruism. Makes sense.
The book also outlines some sacred safe havens, specific places or times where certain discussions are strictly off limits.
Yes. Lowndes is very clear on these social boundaries. Parties are for prater, states that parties are for pleasantries and fellowship, not confrontations, even with enemies. She describes how big players in society smile and nod at their adversaries at the buffet table, saving tough talk for tougher, more appropriate settings.
Right.
And Dinners for Dining establishes the dining table as an even more sacred safe haven. You should absolutely avoid discussing tough business or heavy relationship issues during meals.
This is about avoiding unpalatable discussions that can ruin the atmosphere and potentially lead to indigestion, literal and figurative. It's about respecting the social context and creating an enjoyable, relaxed environment.
Exactly. It's about respecting the unspoken social contract. When dealing with someone in an emotional situation, Lowndes echo the emo advises letting them fully vent. Your primary role is to hear their facts, sure, but more importantly, to empathize deeply with their emotions, to truly smear on the emo, as she puts it.
Smear on the emo. Okay.
She gives the example of a customer service representative dealing with the author's anger about being overcharged. By first letting her emote and empathizing with her profound frustration before attempting to address the facts of the situation.
That's so true. Emotions often need to be acknowledged and validated before facts can even be heard. Empathy is often the only way to calm an emotional storm and create a pathway for resolution.
And for building reciprocity and ensuring future good service, there's a brilliant technique called the buttercup.
The buttercup.
Yeah. This involves writing complimentary letters about excellent employees directly to their bosses. Lowndes views this as a powerful insurance policy for future good service. The author recounts getting exceptional service at Staples, her printing job done 2 days early. After effusively gushing to the assistant manager, "What's your boss's name? Your supervisor should get a letter of congratulations on hiring you."
That small act of recognition directly to a supervisor must be incredibly motivating for employees and certainly creates a positive reciprocal relationship for you. It's such a simple yet often overlooked way to build goodwill.
And finally, Lowndes offers how to be a leader in a crowd, not a follower, which suggests supporting speakers and presenters even if you don't fully agree with their points. Be among the first to applaud or show acceptance. The book cites a fascinating historical tidbit about McCarthy-era spies identifying dangerous ones by those who clapped first and shouted loudest, seeing them as confident cats with inherent charisma and influence. Lowndes applies this, noting that company presidents often notice which employees show acceptance during presentations.
This demonstrates confidence in leadership, doesn't it? As well as an understanding of the vulnerability of being on stage. Supporting others projects a powerful, confident image. This whole section feels like a masterclass in social intelligence, doesn't it? It's about knowing when to speak, when to listen, and how to create an environment where everyone feels valued and respected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It fundamentally moves us from merely talking to truly influencing and cultivating strong, lasting relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. It's about building a reputation for thoughtfulness and genuine connection in every sphere of life, from the personal to the professional. So we've navigated a wealth of techniques today, from the subtle power of a well-timed smile to the strategic art of the buttercup. What ties all of this together is an underlying profound awareness of human dynamics and the constant, often unspoken scorekeeping that's happening in every interaction.
It's all about becoming a big winner in life, right?
Right.
Which the author says means capturing hearts and conquering minds, getting others to help boost you up. And that truly hinges on understanding the great scorecard in the sky.
This great scorecard is Lowndes' metaphor for the invisible accounting system operating in all relationships business, personal, all of them. People instinctively know who has benefited most and what demands deference or reciprocity. When you mess up, you need to even your score through positive actions, or that emotional ledger becomes unbalanced. The anecdote of Charles, who stood the author up for dinner, illustrates this perfectly. The scorecard became heavily unbalanced against him, and the memory of such negative interactions, or ragged dealing as she calls it, makes people far less likely to extend themselves in the future.
So it's not about literally keeping score, like with points, but recognizing that consistent smooth moves and positive interactions create this deep reservoir of goodwill. While negative ones drain it, it really explains why some people always seem to have others bending over backwards for them, seemingly effortlessly.
Precisely. It's about understanding the cumulative effect of your daily interactions. And this leads directly to the critical importance of practice. Lowndes emphasizes that smooth communication moves are never innate, they're learned. As she puts it, excellence is not a single and solitary action. It is the outcome of many years of making small, smooth moves, tiny ones like the 92 little tricks we've explored today.
Uh,
She uses the example of the super skier who gracefully made room on the slope, not thinking, hey, look at me, here I am, but
uh.
instinctively thinking, there you are, let me make room for you. This deliberate move wasn't conscious in the moment. It grew out of years of consistent, conscious practice.
This provides an incredibly empowering message, doesn't it? Anyone can master these skills through consistent, conscious effort. It completely reframes social success as a learnable, cultivated skill, not some genetic trait you're either born with or not. It's about putting in the work.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these techniques underscore that becoming well-informed isn't just about absorbing facts from articles or books. It's profoundly about understanding and applying human dynamics in real-world interactions. They empower you to move through your world with greater confidence, build deeper connections, and genuinely influence those around you, turning every interaction into an opportunity for growth and rapport.
We hope this deep dive into the art of talking to anyone has given you a fresh perspective and some incredibly practical tools to add to your communication toolkit. The world out there is full of fascinating people, and now you have even more ways to truly connect with them.
Indeed. Consider this. If mastering even just a few of these little tricks can dramatically boost your success in relationships, what might happen if you started applying just one of them consistently, every single day, say for a month? The ripple effect on your interactions and maybe even your life could be truly astonishing.
Keep exploring, keep connecting, and remember, the most important conversations are often the ones you choose to start and choose to nurture. Until next time, keep diving deep.